Welcome to Herbally Yours, an adventure into the world of natural medicine. Here is your host, Dr. Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse who will help you take the leap to ultimate wellness.
Greetings, and thank you for joining me, Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, for another edition of Herbally Yours, right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Listen on air or online at your favorite podcast venue, such as iHeartRadio, Odyssey, TuneIn app, smart speakers, and also on our award-winning WHPC app. Download that to keep up with all our great shows. Herbally Yours brings you the latest information about the many facets in the world of natural living. Today, we are so happy to have as our guest Alison Bladh, nutrition and beauty therapist. And we're going to be talking about menopause support. Reignite your inner sparkle and get back your life. Alison is a registered nutritional therapist and beauty therapist living in the wilds of Sweden after falling for the charms of a Viking man. Having worked in the health and wellness industry for over 30 years, specializing in menopausal women's health, she now runs her own online clinic, helping women worldwide manage the stressful effects of menopause. Her mission is to support her clients with changes to diet, health, and lifestyle so that they can harness their hormones and get their confidence and smile and sparkle back. You can find her at Alison Bladh, that's BLADH.com, and all kinds of other Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, etc. And what we do is, after you listen to our show live, you can go to our archive and find Alison and live links to everywhere that you can find her. So thank you so much for joining us today, Alison.
Lovely to be here talking about a subject that I'm very passionate about, so thank you.
So going back in time, when you were originally, let's say, even a little girl, what was your hope in terms of what you would be sharing with the world?
Even as a little girl, I'm a carer. I really wanted to help people. I've always been in that position and that role that I really want to look after people and support them and care for them. And my mother was a professional chef. So from a very young age, I was in the kitchen. So my passion for food and love of food and interest in food and how that can really, help us thrive started at a very young age in the kitchen, making food and watching my mother cook. So it's really that passion of nurturing and reaching optimal health through lifestyle medicine with nutrition, lifestyle and mindset.
And then as you furthered your education, it is very deeply science-based. I mean, to me, it would look like someone on the track to go to pre-medical school because you have a BS from the University of West London, a chemistry degree also from the Center for Nutrition Education and Lifestyle Management, and a biology degree. So very, very focused on really understanding science.
Yes, and it is. I mean, nutrition is fascinating. It's biochemistry, and everything that we eat has an effect on our body. And when you're working with clients like I do, working with the functional medicine model, where you really look at the whole person. So you don't just look at the symptom that they're having, whatever it might be. If we say it's migraines, you would really look at why is that happening? Why is this person getting migraines, for example? And looking at, all the bodily systems and how they interact with each other and how what we eat has such an effect on that, and maybe somebody has deficiencies or, they're having problems with their digestion and hormones. I mean, it's a huge subject, nutrition, but it's fascinating. And I've always been fascinated by hormones and really understanding how they work and the effect that they have on our body. And, really looking at them, especially when we come into perimenopause and menopause, when our hormone levels start to decline, that has an effect on the body. And we see that in so many women, that they can start getting the symptoms. They can really start feeling quite terrible during that time in their lives.
And also, it's a much longer time than I think most people know. When you start with perimenopause, that could be a 5 to 10 year period. It's not a month or two.
No, exactly. It's a very gradual process. I mean, perimenopause, on average, it varies considerably, but on average, women go into perimenopause around the age of 45, but it absolutely can start earlier or later, and it's a very gradual process, perimenopause, where it's where your hormones start to just become a little bit unbalanced. The levels are changing, and as you rightly say, this can go on for years, and then when you come into menopause, average age 51, again varies considerably. This is where you're no longer menstruating, and your levels of estrogen and progesterone have declined quite considerably, and then all the time after that you're in postmenopause, where you have a very small amount of these hormones that are produced via your adrenal glands, which sit on top of your kidneys, just to really keep things ticking along. But you have very low levels of these hormones, which in itself leads to certain health risks. So you really need to look after yourself more during this time.
And there's all kinds of surprises. Many women that I've worked with who get to that time that's actually called menopause, where you suddenly are not getting a monthly menses anymore. And they think, oh, good, I no longer have to use birth control. That's one of the upsides. And then, yikes, a surprise. And they actually might get pregnant when they thought that isn't going to happen anymore.
Yeah, that's true. And you have to be careful, because the perimenopausal period, you are still menstruating. You are absolutely fertile. And sometimes when you're coming nearer to actual menopause, where you're stopping your monthly cycles, you maybe don't have a period for 4 or 5 months, and you think, great, that's it, this is me, I'm in menopause now, and then all of a sudden you can ovulate and have a period. So absolutely, you have to be careful, and you can still get, as long as you're ovulating, you can still get pregnant.
Yeah, and people approach that time of life so differently. I know when I was going through it, and that's probably 25 years ago now, I actually enjoyed it very much, because I loved the hot flashes. I really did, because I'm always cold. It's so funny. My engineer, who's taking care of us today, even said to me, should I shut the air conditioner down? Because he knows I don't like it, which is, I don't. I actually like being warm. So when I used to get hot flashes, not only didn't it bother me, I also took classes with Mantak Chia on how to grab that heating energy and actually direct it to our kidneys to increase our overall internal energy field. So I found it, very empowering. And of course, you do break into a sweat, but I used to wear these kinds of clothes where there's like a shell and then a sweater. So I would take the sweater off, during the hot flash, and then you get chilly afterwards, put it back on. I just didn't find it a terrible challenge at all.
No, that's really interesting. I love that. You were saying about how you harness the energy in your kidneys. That's fantastic. Well done.
Well, that's after years of study of holistic techniques like what you're specializing in, which can make such a big difference. I mean, women get really frightened, because I feel like if they are sort of planning their vision of themselves around a certain level of beauty, a certain level of youthfulness, and then there are changes. You look in the mirror and there's a wrinkle, and some people that becomes very, very challenging.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? We live in such an ageism society. There's so much pressure on women, isn't there, that the way that you should look, and all of that. It really isn't helpful, because, like you say, we're all going to age. It's a process of life, but you can still feel great, and you can thrive, and you can feel confident, and it's not all just down to getting a line on your face. That's part of life's journey, isn't it? So I think it's really learning to accept yourself in the body that you live in and be happy.
Well, different things that happen. How do you support your clients? For instance, if they say to you, I don't know, I eat the same, I exercise the same, but I suddenly, my clothes don't fit and my, pants are tight. What do you do for them?
Yeah, that a lot of my clients come to me for weight management, and it's a very complex area when we come into perimenopause because there's so many things going on. There's multi factors to the reason why women tend to gain weight during perimenopause. Not all women, but some women do, and it tends to be around the abdomen area. We go from a pear shape to more of an apple shape. Hormones, of course, have an effect on this because you tend to collect more fat around the abdomen area. You can find that a lot of women that all of a sudden, if they say, I'm not doing anything different, I look very much at their nutrition and how they eat, that, you should things like thyroid health, because there can be other things coming into play here. It's not just all about what you eat. Thyroid issues, because the thyroid gland is the real engine of the body and it drives our metabolism. It sits at the base of your neck here, and it's a key thing in metabolic health. And it's quite common in women when we get older that we have what we call is called hypothyroidism, and this is where the gland doesn't produce the amount of hormones that it used to, and this can have an effect on many things, but weight being one of them. And one thing with weight management as well is I think we can't blame it all on the menopause. It's the natural aging process has an effect on our body shape and on our weight, because we lose muscle mass, and muscles are fantastic. We really want to keep them, the organ of longevity. So really making sure you lift things and using your muscles, because muscles use energy. So if you have a muscular body, and I'm not talking about you need to go to the gym for 2-3 hours a day, but if you keep a good amount of muscle on your body, you will automatically burn more energy, which is beneficial for weight management and for overall health. So that's a key thing. And I see that, and I see that in many of my clients, that even though they say that they're doing the same things, when you really sit down and talk to them, we tend to slow down as we age. We maybe we're not as active as we used to be. We maybe have that odd glass of wine in the evening. Portion control. Unfortunately, we can't eat the way that we did when we were younger. We can't eat that amount of food because we just don't need it. Our estrogen, when it declines, the decline in this hormone has a very large effect on our metabolism and our metabolic health. So when estrogen levels decline, you don't need that amount of food. So really looking at portion control. And then another huge area in weight management is blood sugar balance. And this is something that we really see in today's society, that a lot of people have problems with blood sugar balance, and this is something that menopausal women can suddenly find that their blood sugar levels go up. And again, the good old estrogen, which is such an important hormone, that really can have an effect on the way that our body manages sugar. And we can, if we don't really think about what we're eating, we carry on eating, very sugary foods, what we call the ultra-processed foods that are high in sugar, refined carbohydrates that just are digested very quickly and they shoot the blood sugar up. This can lead to something called insulin resistance.
And it is a shame that so many people base their diet on that. So let me reintroduce our guest. You are listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College 90.3 WHPC. You can listen live online at nccradio.org or iHeartRadio or the venue of your choice. And for more information on today's guest or topic, email us at whpc@ncc.edu. Our guest today is Alison Bladh, who is a registered nutritional therapist and beauty therapist, and she lives in Sweden, but she speaks to clients all over the world, and you can find her at AlisonBladh.com. But Alison, tell us the best way to find you, and that's spelled a special way. So tell us how.
Yeah, the best way to find me is on my website, and that's Alison Bladh. That's Alison, and Bladh is Bladh. And on there you've got all my links to all my websites, social media platforms.
So you just talked about like hormone levels and how important they are. If you do a consult with someone, and they could be far or wide, they may not be right there with you in Sweden, how do you determine those levels? Do you have them go to their own physician and get it measured, or do you just go by how they're feeling? How would you determine that?
Yeah, there are many different they're called functional tests that you can do. There's one in particular called the Dutch test, which is where you really look at hormone levels and you look at the different levels. And it's very important when you do these tests that you do them at the correct time of the month. However, when we're talking about perimenopause or menopausal women, it's especially in perimenopause, because your hormones are all over the place. So, if you do a test when you think that's the right time, it might not be. So it's very difficult to really pin down a good time to do a hormonal test. So if, for example, a client comes to me and they're showing all the classic menopausal symptoms, it's not really always necessary to do a test for hormones, because it's obvious that this person is in menopause. I know in Europe, I don't know what it's like in the States, but the guidelines for healthcare practitioners and doctors is that, if the woman is at that age where it's perimenopause or menopause and they've got all these symptoms, then they don't really suggest that you do testing, because what really is it going to show? It's going to show that she's in menopause. However, for some women, I do that if I think it's necessary. But stool testing is something that can give you so much information on how the digestive tract is working, how people, how their elimination is working, if they've got problems with gut bacteria.
See, that is a big one right now. I want to throw out that word, because you've been talking about this and studying it scientifically and through a functional medicine perspective, which really focuses on natural interventions for years. But a new word, it's not a new word to you or I, but it's become a hot buzzword, at least here in the U.S., which I think is really helpful because it's starting to motivate people, and that is called the microbiome, which you're really talking about.
Yeah, the microbiome, it's wonderful because there's so much research being done on this now. So the information that's coming out is fantastic. The microbiome it's your gut bugs, it's the bacteria that resides in your gut. And that this bacteria, what we've come to learn is that it is very beneficial and needed for our overall well-being, for all aspects, for our brain health, for our digestion, for overall health. And a really interesting thing, there is a group of bacteria called the estrobolome, and this has been shown to have an effect and regulation on estrogen in the body. So it's fascinating because there's many different types of bacteria, but what we want to focus on for health is the good bacteria, and we need a good balance in the gut. And what can happen sometimes if you have a high sugar diet, or if you've taken a lot of antibiotics, that you can basically kill off these good bacteria and the bad bacteria can take over. And this is something called dysbiosis, where there's an imbalance of bacteria in the gut. So we really want to eat foods which are called probiotic foods. And probiotic foods contain these wonderful bacteria that our gut loves so much. Things like sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, kombucha, all of these fermented products contain probiotics. You can take probiotic supplements if you're not a huge fan of, those fermented foods. But it's really important to be aware of your gut bacteria because it has such a big effect on our overall health.
Right, even with things that you discussed, like things that appear to be allergies. And here we are talking about menopause. It seems like we went off the topic, but really not at all, because these are a lot of the things that can help people just glide right through menopause, which I thought was a wonderful time of life. I guess I'm still in the pause part, but I mean, it's that transition that most people, feel that change. And like you said, around in the 50s. So what about your menopause 5-step breakthrough pathway? What is that?
Yeah, that's what I call my signature program, because when I work with clients, I don't work with just one-off consultations because it's just not enough. That the women that come to me are normally overwhelmed, they're very stressed, they've got a lot of things going on health-wise, so we really need to have time to heal their bodies. So my signature program, my 5-step program, is over a 12-week period, and this is where we really get to the root cause of what is going on. Maybe doing testing if that's needed, supplementation maybe if I feel that's necessary. But first of all, we work on nourishing the body. So we look at what the person is eating, and then we really look at foods to nourish that person, to hydrate and nourish the body. Can have such a huge effect just in doing that in itself. And then we do work on elimination. So, taking out things that aren't beneficial, whether it's food, whether it's lifestyle habits, things that aren't good for your health and aren't, helping with your health goals. It could be some sorts of foods. It maybe we take gluten as an example. Maybe your body doesn't handle gluten very well, so we remove that. So it's all about really removing things or swapping things out to make you feel better. And then a big thing is what I call, we do a stress audit. Because in today's society, so many people are suffering from chronic stress.
Yeah, that's why even not watching the news right before you're going to sleep could be a good idea. When you watch that nightly news and it's all about the wars and, disasters, it's not a great image for your brain to go to sleep on.
No, totally agree with you. We live in a society where there's just so much stimulation the whole time, and our brain doesn't like that. We need time to just switch off. And the effects you could do a whole podcast on stress. You could talk about stress for hours, but it has a detrimental effect on our health. And it's certainly not the friend of a menopausal woman. So we really sit down together and come up with a strategy so we can help to reduce stress levels. And I totally understand that, we're all busy. A woman doesn't have time to do an hour's meditation or an hour's yoga every day. So coming up with realistic things that you can do in your day to help reduce stress is crucial for long-term health. And then I look at mindset. So we look at of how that person, their emotional well-being is, because that also plays a huge part in how we are and how you move forward through menopause. So that's a very brief version of my 5-step program. So
is it different for each person? Like, it must be individualized because everyone's not the same metabolically, psychologically.
Totally. It's totally tailored individually for that person. Absolutely, because we're all, like you say, so different. But it's really those key areas we focus on, but that could look very different for everybody depending on what they need.
That's so true. And also, you focus on beauty as well.
Yeah, when I work with clients, I trained initially many, many years ago as an esthetician, as a beauty therapist, but because I had acne when I was a teenager and I was very interested in, why is this happening? So even at a young age, I started thinking about nutrition and how that could help my skin health, and also looked into hormones. I became very interested. So when I first started working as an esthetician, I focused on hormonal skin health. And that very soon came to me that you even though aesthetic treatments are very good and you can really improve the skin, you also need that piece from the inside. So I find, even though I focus predominantly on nutritional therapy now, but that because I'm an expert in skin health and women going through menopause and perimenopause, that can see a lot of changes in their skin. The skin and the beauty therapy part, it actually complements each other considerably. And I think women, when we come into this phase in our life, we all of a sudden start questioning things, don't we? We might lack confidence and might suddenly be worried about the way that we look. And, so it's really boosting people's confidence and maybe giving them some little tricks and tips that they can do, maybe with makeup, or go and have some skin treatments, do this sort of treatment or use these sort of products. So I do that as well, but I predominantly do nutrition now.
That's excellent, and thank you so much for sharing all that fantastic information. And it's so great that you have the background both in science, in food and nutrition, so that you can individualize the program for each of your clients. It's a really wonderful skill.
Oh, thank you. No, I love what I do, and it's so rewarding to really change women's lives and see them start thriving again. It's a fantastic feeling.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest today, Alison. And again, for people who would like to find you, you can go to, at the end of our show, once you listen to it, you can visit our archives and we'll have links, a very easy link, but it's Alison, ALISON, BLADH.com.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
And you. Okay, be well. And thank you, listeners, so much for joining us again for another edition of Herbally Yours, produced in the studios of 90.3 WHPC, Nassau Community College in Garden City, New York. For further information, you can email us at whpc@ncc.edu, or you could reach me at naturalnurse.com. And we invite you to join us again next week for another edition of Herbally Yours. Until then, stay healthy.